I'm going to stand on this side just to be different. When I was 25 years old, I fell in love with a long skateboard named Elsa. She was bright yellow, and instantly we decided to go on a journey together. I auctioned my calves for advertising space on eBay and used the funds to go from John O'Groats to Land's End. It was fairly wet and pretty blistered, as you can see, but it was only a warm-up. In August 2006, I flew across to Perth with a team and Elsa, and the aim was to skate east all the way to Brisbane. Now, as you can see, the UK trip was absolutely nothing compared to this. The UK fits into Oz 28 times. There was certainly a challenge ahead. Now, as a ginger guy in one of the world's hottest countries, it didn't really bode well. And before the journey began, several hundred people wrote to me informing me that I was probably going to die. There was definitely a challenge on. This Nullarbor plain has absolutely no trees for shelter, and the air highway, as you can see here, goes straight through the middle. On its own, it's longer than Britain. Every 5 kilometres, Australia makes it really difficult for you to travel long distances without feeling quite sad. Every 5 kilometres, there's a little green signpost indicating the distance to the next town. And over 6,000 kilometres, I passed an awful lot of green signposts. And it was also a very good chance to grow a fair beard. Now, to be fairly inventive with our fundraising, I was raising money for 3 kids' charities, developed a little game called Dare Dave, and people could set us a challenge to complete on the road in return for a small donation. Here I am, going along the air highway, bouncing a Swansea University branded beach ball. It earned us £50 and a fair few odd stares. Now, the bottom slide shows the first real bend in about 500 miles, and I was concentrating so hard on not missing the road that I missed this enormous road train coming out behind me. These things are enormous. They get up to about 80 metres in length, and they're great just to zip in behind on your skateboard, and it sucks you along. It's absolutely magic. Now, when you say you're going to Australia, people say, watch out for the spiders and the snakes. I say, watch out for the march flies. They're absolute beasts. They're like little bats, basically, with a long proboscis that could easily poke you through your thick skate shoe. So I skated for 4 days across the Nullarbor with a fly swat. Now, as we approached Adelaide, halfway through the journey, my right shoes were slowly wearing through. Lovely story here. After the journey, I met this guy called Len Snowden, who had lost his right arm and right leg in a train accident. I asked him what size his shoe was, and luckily he gave me the right figure, and I brought in a bag of 14 perfectly good yet slightly dusty trainers. Now, to celebrate getting into Adelaide, my team and I jumped up next to a signpost that shared the name with our cameraman, Simon Thorpe. Unfortunately, I just finished skating, I took my shoes off, and I landed directly on a spike, which went straight through my heel. Not the best injury for a skateboarder. Luckily, a team of doctors from Pecha magazine came along and magically it just mended immediately on the same day. Just a quick snapshot of the crazy media attention we had on the journey. We had some wonderful international coverage, really colourful. Around this time, a Chinese girl started emailing me with naked pictures asking me to marry her. Board free was quite big over there, apparently. Travelling along the road with traffic definitely on one side of you is absolutely draining. It really gets you, especially after you've been skating for 5 months non-stop. This is coming into Sydney. The first half, the western side of Australia, was pretty sparse traffic-wise, but then it really picks up. This was the most peaceful 100 metres in an almost 6,000 kilometre journey. Wellington Ferry in South Australia, absolutely magic. Pelicans gliding, lush green banks, fish jumping. It sowed the seed for some journeys to come in the future. Now, it's not all about skate, and some skaters tend to have a little bit of responsibility on their shoulders, and with several hundred kilometres to go until the next town, a big red kangaroo in the middle of the road can cause a pretty serious accident. This one, unfortunately, was still fairly warm and still sweating from fear when I pulled it off the road, but hopefully we saved a nasty situation. Now, I was going to talk about how tired I got when I was skating along here, but having heard all of these stories, especially Miles's, that just sounds really pathetic. But suffice it to say, in the summer it was 40 degrees of temperature, and I was skating about 60 kilometres a day, so it slowly took its toll on my body. In just a desperate attempt to try and outdo Sarah's blisters, you could see the Adelaide signpost left an imprint on my left heel, and by the end of the journey my immune system was slowly wearing down, and my right foot was swelling up to dwarf the left. It was just amazing what a good night's sleep does for your recuperation, though, with the right foot slowly slipping into the shoe. This is Simon Thorpe, team cameraman, throwing a water balloon at me in the corner. I got my own back on Si, who loved to mimic all of my radio interviews. So I dressed him up as me, sent him into a studio, and he conducted a live interview as I skated through the area in which the interview was being played. He absolutely cacked himself when I called into the studio, but didn't reveal who he was. Now, on December 16th, 2006, I skated into Sydney Olympic Park to break the world distance skateboarding record. But I was supported by an amazing team. It was a big fundraising effort. We got over £25,000 in the bag and raised lots of awareness, so it was a true team effort. I've got to say, I'd never been so relieved to see a signpost as I was when I saw this one. Only 800 kilometres to Brisbane. Having skated 5,000 kilometres already, this was just beautiful. As was the Pacific Highway, which took us all the way up to the destination, nice and smooth, and 3 lanes as well, so didn't have to compete for space with the cars. On an early January evening, I came to the tip of a hill and saw the Brisbane skyline for the first time and promptly burst into tears, absolutely knackered. Then I went down the hill and at 40 kilometres an hour hit a pothole, ended up 40 metres further down the road with a big dent in my helmet. It was the first time I'd fallen in the entire journey. Just a couple of kilometres later, I made it into the end. The reception was wonderful, but it just vindicated for me that just 22 months earlier, I'd never been on a skateboard. And this was definitely my idea of adventure. It started persuading me to tease the boundaries of my comfort zone, and I've been doing so ever since.